Okay.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm going to send hello, everybody.
Hello.
Okay.
You send what?
All right, we have 2 people. Can they hear us and see us? Sorry, we're having technical difficulties because we're setting this up on a new computer. So we had to switch to a different live stream because something was wrong in the settings on the one that we set up first. Good. Glad you can hear us.
All right.
Sorry we're 2 minutes late, but we're here. Hi, everybody. All right, I'm going to sit back here.
Have a seat.
Don't make it
It's fine. That's good.
Okay.
All right. Cheers.
First things
It's been a long
first.
day.
Yeah, so we're excited to share with you guys our news, and we will our big announcement of what we're doing and what our plans are. We won't make you wait for that. So if you're rewatching this, you'll get to the good stuff real quick.
Yeah.
And we're clearly somewhere, not in Dusty.
Yeah, Dusty it's terrifying. It never gets normal to park your truck at a port, and it's always in the roughest part of town, and just drive away from it or take an Uber away from it. Or in this case, a patron picked us up and took us to the hotel, and then just hope it's all okay. We've gotten to put Dusty in a container one time, but the other time, you have to just basically trust the folks at the port. And never had any issues doing that, but it's really tough. This time we're sharing a container with someone else. And so their truck will get there Monday, then they'll load them into the container. Thankfully, it's the same company we used to ship back from Uruguay. So we trust the company, but
and where are we going? So Dusty is obviously now at port.
Yes.
He's going in a container.
Yeah. We got, let's see, we got on a plane. Sorry, I was looking at the numbers because I wasn't sure if the other live is still active and we should kill it.
I don't know.
I feel bad for anyone that followed all the links I put out there.
Sorry,
guys.
At least we'll see this. I don't know how to share this one, though.
All right, I'll just keep talking while you sort that. So, yeah, we parked Dusty. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. We haven't slept a whole lot trying to get everything done to, leave, trying to do your taxes remotely and digitally, everything you can imagine. Once you start hitting the road, it gets a lot tougher. So we've just been going flat out. Yeah, there's 50 viewers waiting. Sorry, 50 people on the other one. Come to this one.
Yeah. I don't know
if you can, kill that one. But yeah, sorry, we're really tired. 4 a.m. this morning, we parked Dusty, and then 4 a.m. we heard that our flight was canceled, and then we worked to book another one. And we thankfully found one. We made it here. We're in New York City, and it's awesome. We're exhausted,
really
but
cool.
What a change from our normal life. And so we figured if we have a month or more, maybe a month and a week even before our truck arrives where it's going, we wanted to adventure in places that make no sense to try and bring Dusty, right? And so this is the first stop. And so all on points from when we were doing the work that we were doing when we were out, for working for BLM and Forest Service and some of the training work we were doing.
Yeah.
We were trying to build points on credit cards and other ways. And so we are able to do a week in New York on points at a hotel, which is a novelty for us. We find all hotels fancy. Yeah. They have running water and everything.
Yeah.
And then we're flying from here to Egypt,
which I'm so excited for. I think Egypt was the first place that when I was a little kid, sparked that interest and idea that you could travel and that there were these faraway places that had, I don't know, crazy history and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. That one should be dead now.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, still trying to figure this out. Technical stuff. But so we're super excited. I'm super excited. Tim's been there once before.
Yeah, I got to go in college, but a lot of these places in Europe and stuff like Russia, Europe, North Africa, I got to do in college, but you're a college kid. And so you're not really adventuring. You're just looking for where to get some beer and hang out, So we're stoked to go and really explore and really adventure in these places. In Africa, in Egypt particularly, I think it's 800% is the, I wouldn't say it's a tariff or a tax because you should get it back, but essentially like on a carnet, you have to put 800% of your vehicle's value into the bank that's holding the carnet. And so it's basically impossible to bring your own vehicle in. Some people I know have been able to, at the border, maybe bribe or negotiate a way to just get it sort of handled and get in. But most people, if you do it sort of by the carnet rules, it makes it crazy expensive.
Yeah. So it's a good one to do without a vehicle, and it helps with what we're doing. So I don't know if you said it because I was paying attention to trying to fix this, but so Dusty is in a container and he is going to Germany.
Yes.
Right
So he's going to his adopted home.
Yeah.
And so some people were asking because somebody just bought some stickers from Japan. So we sent some there and they were asking if we were heading to his home. And it's like, well, kind of his adopted home. So, manufactured in Japan. Then he was sent to Germany and sold new. And then a guy there had him for a long time and off-roaded with him. And then he, I think, is the one who wanted it turned into a Maltec. And then it was sold at Overland Expo to the guy we bought it from. And so he's finally going home now.
Yeah, so it's really exciting. And then that gives us a place that we can kind of jump off to different areas depending on what the world is doing. It's hard to make firm plans, but we have like dreams of Mongolia. And if that doesn't work out, then Africa. And so we're not really sure exactly where we'll end up, but we're moving again, which is really exciting. And then it's a good place for us to jump to different areas from. So
yeah, we're super stoked. Because Germany and Europe in general gives us such a cool area to explore. With the truck, some pretty cool areas. And then, if we're waiting on it, some great places to go that are really tough to visit. And then, of course, Turkey, Croatia. I mean, there's so many places that are actually pretty inexpensive in the European area. And then we'll see what Russia does in this direction. We'll see what happens in Africa in terms of borders opening. But there's so many possibilities from there. And that's why this seems perfect. And the cost to go to South Africa, it was well over $7,000, which it cost us about $2,200 or something like that to go from Cologne, Panama to Cartagena. So that's like 35 miles. And we shared a container with some friends we met on the road. And then it was about 2,400 to go all the way from Uruguay, South America, all the way to Houston. So distance doesn't seem to matter. It's just, can you share a container and what's like the pricing in the market doing? So the pricing, as you can imagine, is insane right now. And so to go to South Africa was like almost $8,000, which is
so crazy. And then to get, if you have to ship out of there, another who knows what, but it's expensive to get in and out right now.
But everyone, when they were guessing on all the places we were going, you're kind of all right because the original location was Australia. That's what we thought we'd head next because it seemed awesome at the time and it was a perfect place to jump to. Yeah. But then COVID happened and then it was, researching Africa and then it was the stands and the Silk Road and the KKH Road. And there's so many awesome things in that direction. So we've kind of been like, almost analysis paralysis, but we couldn't act on any of it.
Yeah, what a frustrating 2 years where all we could do was like dream about what we want to do, but it's so hard to make plans right now. But excited to be moving. I still have my heart set on Namibia at some point. I really want to go there really bad, and Mongolia too.
But I love that where we're going now, we can go east. And then we can also go south from there. It's like a base. And then when you get back to Europe, you can order parts and whatever you need or whatever you want, whatever luxury or convenience you were lacking or whatever part you were lacking or gear, that's so accessible there. And then you can kind of go out from there. So we're super stoked and we can't wait to meet a bunch of people in Europe and around Europe and everything. And
lots of delicious food.
Yeah. The amount of food we're gonna eat is gonna be
ridiculous. We already had in
so.
New York. I've been watching like just food reviews of like all the cool restaurants to go to, not like expensive
fancy
restaurants or anything, but just like the foodie places to go. And so we walked to get some really good pizza.
Yeah.
Right before this, and it was.
It was super good. Yeah. And after that, we're gonna be doing dollar pizzas for a while. Yeah. But it's cool for us. New York is sort of a novelty. When we had office jobs, I used to have to go to Chicago mainly or like Boston. And so I like big cities. I mean, in small doses, and I think for us now, the idea of being in a big city, when we were in South America, sitting at a coffee shop in Lima or in Buenos Aires and having a beer and just people watching. It was so different than where we spent 95% of our time that it was such a cool thing. So this is kind of neat that we get to do this. So we're stoked on that. And plus, without the truck for like a month and a week, we're going to do Egypt, but then we're going to head probably into Europe. We don't really know. And it's so fun to not have a plan. Like I can't remember the last time we didn't have a plan, because in the last 2 years, if there was a way to make some money, we were on it. We were just, okay, we're heading to Oregon, or we're heading to Nevada, we're heading wherever, because if there's any way we could save, we were on it. And so it's really cool to know that it's just up to us now and wherever we want to go. So.
Yeah, really exciting. Okay, there's lots of people now joining. Sorry, guys, if you missed, we had technical difficulties with the other stream, so we're over here now.
So to summarize, Dusty is in the sketchiest part of Houston, Texas, in a warehouse waiting for the other truck we're sharing a container with, and then they're going to go into a container.
Which the other truck should arrive tomorrow.
Tomorrow, I think. Yeah. And then Dusty and this other truck are going to Dusty's adopted home in Germany, and so we're going to pick them up in Germany. And then it'll be awesome. I want to go by and like see Maltec and check out whatever they're building now, and go and be the slowest vehicle around the Nürburgring probably. And stuff like that. I just can't wait to go and do some of that touristy stuff. And then the plan is to head east or south. So we'll just not too worried about what Russia is doing, except that, just like when we're in South America, you'll go, oh, not going there right now. So we'll just keep an eye on it. And then if it's bad right now, we'll go south, and if it's fine, we might go out there and then go south into Africa. But there's plenty to do in Europe and on the sides of Europe and stuff, so we're super excited.
It'll be a little bit different. Someone asked, like, where will you camp in Europe, and it depends on where we're at, but some countries it'll mostly just be paid camping, which is not our favorite, but we're hoping to get into areas where we will be able to find some remote camps. And we've even scoped out some places, like even Italy has
southern Italy and southern
remote,
Spain. And then you can take ferries over into Morocco or Tunisia. Turkey, I'm really excited to go back to Turkey. I only really got to see Istanbul when I was there in college. And so to go to Turkey and Croatia and some of these places look amazing. And then I think in like the main EU countries, we'll probably be, paying to camp. But then there's so many people we've met on the road and have reached out over the years. I'm sure we're going to be in people's yards and just camping in a driveway or on somebody's land or whatever. And then when fuel gets too expensive, which, it's going to be pretty pricey
some
there.
Places,
then we'll be making our plans to sort of head out of the EU countries and out of the Schengen. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Schengen or Shenzhen. I'm calling it Shenzhen.
We'll learn.
Visa, which Americans, which is both of us, we get 90 days in the EU. And so we want to use that sparingly, which is another reason it was a good excuse, besides some cheap plane tickets, to go to Egypt. So Slovenia, that sounds awesome.
Sounds cool. I've been to Austria and Italy, but I don't think I went to Slovenia. No. Turkey, we're really excited. I'm really excited about Turkey, and Croatia looks amazing as well.
I'm just excited with how many possibilities we have. And I feel like all of the other overlanders, who are sort of full time and who came home from maybe doing the Pan American or something else, I feel like we've all felt pretty stuck because, it's just like, where can you go and where can you afford to go with the price of shipping being so much more? And so it's just kind of cool that something worked. You know what I mean? As soon as we had someone to ship with, it was like, you know what? Let's quit overthinking it. Let's go. We need to get moving again, because if we don't start moving, then we start looking into every job we can do, which is good. It's always good to have some travel funds, but then another year ticks by. And I think for all of us, the last 2 have felt pretty long.
Yeah, for sure. I saw something about, the comments are going by quickly, but I saw something about mountain bikes. Yeah, we'd love to have mountain bike. We're not taking them with us, but we would love to rent them in areas that have a lot of good riding.
That's what we decided. So in the US, it was such a pain to carry bikes. And we even bought like one of the swing out rack attach swing outs that's kind of expensive, just so it could swing out of the way, since our main front door is on the back of the truck. And it was such a pain every time we were trying to do any sort of hard trail. Even though I had a section that took it up higher in the air, you were always hitting more often. Anytime you parked anywhere, certain towns are just notorious for nice mountain bikes disappearing. So we knew it would be more of a hassle than it was worth to carry them around the world. And so we just resigned ourselves to renting. If there's a great place to ride and everyone's talking about it, or we see single track, we'll just rent something. Someone ask Maltech if they have plans to convert Gladiators. They'll do anything. I know they've done Defenders, G-Wagons. They did one of the the Mercedes pickup trucks, not a G-Wagon, but like the Mercedes pickup truck that I think was based on a Mitsubishi, maybe. I'm not sure. But they've done everything. So it's really, I mean, if you got the money, I think they can do any sort of vehicle for you. And I've seen their boxes put on different types of vehicles. Of course, the 80 series I think is the one they've done the absolute most of. And even the ones who have a 70 series body, it's just a 70 series body. It's still an 80. And then I think now 200s are probably got to be just about the most popular, which makes perfect sense. I mean, for most overlanding, that's going to be fine.
Time constraints. We don't have any time constraints. As far as we know right now, we don't have plans to come back. Obviously, we'll come back to visit family and that sort of thing, but no like firm we need to be back or do something at a certain time. So
this time money is the main constraint. And then we've really tried to set life up where we have nothing besides seeing family that is like going to draw us back home, except if we need to work, of course. And so, it's really kind of cool, actually. For the first time, we feel like there's not in 2 months, we're flying here to work this and do that. And so really, it's just going to be whatever we can do. And the other thing we're trying to do is make sure we do all those little things we want to do this time. Not that we didn't have a ton of fun in Central and South America, but I think we were probably overly cheap. We discussed we would drive well into the night just to continue to remote camp and camp for free and be checking out like the tops of mountains to look for like a cell tower to park next to, just to be camp for free. And I think this time it's like, we still are always be camping for free if we can. But I think instead of bypassing places like the Galapagos, we're going to look at the prices and go, man, all right, it's going to be a lot, but let's do it. That sort of thing.
Yeah, we're super excited to stay with Lassa's family.
This is cool. Yeah, thanks, Jessica and Lassa. That's our buddy who, when we stored Goose down in South America, he actually helped us find a spot in Lima. And so Goose lived underneath the Marriott in Lima for a couple of months, actually, that time.
Yeah.
And thank you. Cheers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Here's on you.
Someone asked if we were in Tucson. That we were in Tucson. We actually had like a little meetup. Is that a week ago now?
About a week ago, yeah. Seems like a long time ago.
But yeah, we were in Tucson, so you probably did see us driving around.
Yeah, we were in Tucson, and that's where my buddy's house. All the times we've done serious work on the truck, and you see it up on a lift, it's always at my buddy Brent's house. Yeah. And he's a guy I met back in college, and we built a race car together, and like just completely we're obsessed with desert racing for at least 10 years and then still are, but we just don't race as often now because it's expensive, but such a good guy. And that's been, my family lives there. My brother even moved out to Tucson. So that's the closest thing to a home that we have. It's where our storage unit is. And so Tucson's really been the kind of the main spot. Jeff, you were invited. So. But we tried to put that out. Last week was the closest thing to a get together that we've done. We just let everyone know we went to Moto Sonora Brewing in Tucson and just hung out and showed people the truck.
It was very last minute that we announced it to everybody. So
yeah, and then the trip cross country was like one of those where we were coming into Texas and we had till Saturday to drop the truck. We thought, and well, we did at the time. And then we headed down into Big Bend, and it was beautiful, camped. And then that next morning, we were deciding whether we were going to explore more of Big Bend or not. And the moment we got a little bit of cell service, we found out that we need to get the truck there the next day. So we went from, the southern tip of Big Bend all the way to Houston in like less than 24 hours, really.
Yeah.
Which isn't that bad, but remember, Dusty's pretty slow.
And it was a storm.
And it was a bad storm. And then the valve that opens the heater core, it was frozen in place. Worked perfectly in Alaska, but it was one of those things that's pretty far down the list because it's not mechanical. It's, convenience.
And it was warm in Tucson.
Yeah, and it was warm in Tucson. But, when it was, I think it was in the teens, and then you're going down the highway and the windshield's freezing over and you have to stop and de-ice it because you don't have any hot air. And we're bundled up in all of our clothing.
Got like blankets on us, and we stopped. I bought like the little hand warmer packs and like just trying to stay warm.
And I just tried to drink decaf coffee into the night. And then it's Texas, so we were just camping in rest spots or whatever. Yeah. And so we made it to Houston on time, checked the truck in and everything, and we got it done. But we're still clearly
And
we're tired.
This morning we woke up to at like 4 a.m. Our flight was canceled, so we were scrambling to find another flight to make it here. Because if we have to rearrange everything if something falls out of place right now because we have enough flights.
Fly fishing plans, always plans. I don't know how much we'll do, but I'm going to carry that same fly rod that I had. That's like an Orvis reel. I need to get it all reset up though too. I need fly fishing buddies to help me.
Yeah,
what I need. And so in Europe, or via messages and stuff, someone could maybe help me out because we really do want to do more fishing. One of the main goals of this second adventure, or that's going to be a long sort of adventure, is to slow down. We definitely always felt like the Central and South America trip was a 1-year trip, and then it was a 2-year trip, and then it was 2.5, and then COVID started. And now we really are trying to make this our life and continue. And so we want to be able to slow down and really enjoy it. And that's definitely one of the goals for this.
All right, we can open up. I know you guys are kind of asking questions, but if you have any questions, let us know.
Yeah, I was going to go through a couple that people are always asking us, like how to save up. You know, in the couple of years we've been home, I can go over both. We're going to do a video on it, but basically in the 2 years we were home, we had to make a decision. Go back to the convenience of having a stationary place, like renting an apartment. We still own our house in Phoenix that's been rented out, so we could tell them not to rent it, move back in and take on all that. But we knew as soon as we took on like a real mortgage or rent payment, that's a big nut to crack each month before you're saving anything. And so for us, we decided to, but if we did that, the plus would be you'd probably get better paying jobs, right? You'd apply, you'd interview, you'd do all that sort of thing. We decided that we'd actually be able to save more, and it would be easier to break away when we wanted to. If we didn't move into anywhere, we stayed in the truck, Goose at first and now Dusty, and did lower paying jobs and just worked really hard and do a lot of hours and keep up with the videos. And so we kind of went as flat out as we could on all that. And that's really what made us able to save, you know, is just being able to do that, but not have any big costs. Really, the biggest cost for us is the truck by far. And then basically bringing a 32-year-old truck back up to spec. And so we were talking
a lot of manual hours.
If we had to pay somebody, I don't know, it would probably be 25 grand in maintenance that we'd done if we had to pay someone. We did almost all of it ourselves. We had a guy in Phoenix named Zook, who's just, I can set up gears so they work. He can set up ring and pinion gears so they work for 250, 300,000 miles without issue, without noise, etc. So we paid him for his labor. And so that was like $1,400 with all the bearings as well, but it's still the same ring and pinion gears. We didn't replace or re-gear the truck. So all that sort of stuff, we did as much as we could ourselves. And I think we're still in like 6 or 7 grand. It could be even a little more in parts, in Toyota parts that we put into this truck. And so I think we'll do a video on what we did. And I was going to do a video also on owning an 80 series because they're so popular right now, and watching Bring a Trailer. Kind of, I'm sure if you own an 80 series, you're probably just rolling your eyes at the prices right now because it seems insane. And we all know they're like this amazing truck that's super overbuilt, but the prices are crazy. So I was going to try and do a video just with my opinions anyways on, you know, owning an 80 series and what it's worth or not worth, you know, in terms of at least knowing what you're getting into if you buy one of these things, and knowing that it's 30 years old. It can be, depending on what year you buy. Or if you have an earliest year one like ours, 32 years. And so you need to throw this money at it, and then it should be good to go. Kind of like Goose was for the trip, with pretty much only aftermarket things failing on him that whole trip. So.
Yeah. Jessica said that South America was only supposed to be 6 months. Yeah, we planned for like a year. We thought like, oh, that's plenty of time.
Yeah.
But it took us 2 years, I think, to drive down there.
Yeah. And it felt fast. So that's the crazy part too. Jeff, you said earlier, like, wow, you got a month between shipping your truck and picking it up. And it's kind of a long time. But if you thought I have 1 month without my vehicle to do all these adventures that are good not to have it, there's no way you can do them all. So if we can do Egypt and maybe one other place, we'd be super stoked in a month, I think. And then, of course, for us too, we'll have days like tomorrow might be one because we're so tired today, where we just crash out and edit video and work on the website and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Do you like the manual transmission versus automatic, like for overlanding?
I absolutely love the manual, which is, it's funny. It's everything I wanted. it's like riding a dirt bike and being very engaged in your travel and in your surroundings and all of that. A manual sort of does that in a sense. We've got a lot going on. You've got your exhaust gas temperatures, you got boost gauge, there's a lot of things in a manual transmission, old diesel truck that you're sort of monitoring. And I like that engagement. If I were driving in Los Angeles or Phoenix to like an office, it would not be fun. I mean, it would be a fun novelty, just like Tonto or FJ40 is a novelty, and I love driving them. But if I had to drive in our FJ40 every day, even when it's 110, it'd get old. And so it did with the 911 too. It was a black car with no AC that if the engine blew, it cost you more than the car costs to redo it. So old cars can be stressful, but for off-roading and overlanding, I love the manual and I love the challenge of it. When we're wheeling, I mean, we don't do super hardcore wheeling, but when we are wheeling through stuff, we are fully engaged completely using lockers, those what are they called? Harrop e-lockers. They're amazing. They're so quick to engage and disengage. So you've got so much going on. You're looking at everything going on. You're changing gears, and then you're using lockers and everything else. So I love having the manual transmission. It's the diesel engine too is everything I wanted it to be. It's faster than Goose to get up to speed.
And in low range.
And in low range, that torque, it doesn't want to stall.
Yeah.
And then it just runs out of steam. So that's the main difference is it gets to 70 miles an hour and the RPMs are fine, but I don't want to cruise at 75 or 80 unless we put 35s on it. So it does run out of steam quicker.
Yeah.
But Dusty has a 1H DT. So it's the straight six factory turbo diesel. So a lot faster than a 1.8Z. I've driven 1.8Zs and like them, but for US use, I'm really glad we had the 1H DT. Or if we had a 1.8Z, we probably would have wanted to turbo it. For like world travel, the people we've traveled with that had 1.8Zs, you're going so slow in all these countries. It was great. I really liked it. But I love the fuel economy too. We went from 13 miles per gallon or so in Goose to 18 to 24. And when we're on the highway, like I-10 or something, you're getting closer to the 24. So it's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's been really cool. East Coast, any thoughts about an East Coast trip? If it's the U.S., we are currently on the very East Coast.
Yes. Unfortunately, not with the truck right now anyways. But yeah, we'd love to do an East Coast trip. But there's so many other trips in the world. If you're into off-roading or not, like there's the Great Loop around the U.S., that goes down the Mississippi and around and all the way up the East Coast. So stuff like that, we would love to do these other kinds of adventures if we can figure out a way to make them work.
How did you find Dusty? Tim was obsessed.
Yeah, this is probably one of the number one questions we get. So for like the last 7 or 8 years, as soon as I saw a box on an 80 series, I thought that's the ultimate setup, right? For what, even just for the week-long trips. Now, it kind of wouldn't have been. Actually, I'm really glad I didn't find one back when we were just going on weekend and week-long trips, because this big old box, it's kind of an impractical thing to drive to work every day. And it's so purpose made. Yeah. But there were some that you could lift off. There's a guy named Marcus, the off-road Schmied in Schmied? Yeah, in Germany that builds one that you can pull the box off. And so you can have a usable flatbed truck.
Dusty found us. I think so, Jeff.
Basically Dusty found us. But so I was pretty obsessed, and I was tracking down the companies that made them. Maltec was definitely the top, and I was sure I would never own one because they're so expensive. And then there was a lot of others that are really nice. They make them on 80 series, which is my favorite because of the coil suspension, the axles, lots of reasons. But there's companies that make them on 70 series as well, pickup truck 70 series, and build a composite box on the back. So we were just hunting everywhere. We had one that we found that was not a Maltec, but it was on an 80 series chassis with a FJ40 body on it, and then a big camper on the back. And that was in Uruguay when we were in Buenos Aires. We were going to try and go take a look at it, and it sold. But anytime there was one that was within our price range, it was either sold right away or it was something would be wrong with it. It was like a series of truck I didn't like, so I didn't want to deal with learning a whole new truck. Or it was, 120 grand. So it was way too expensive. So for us, I joined all the German language forums. So if you really want a box on an 80 series, or you want a deal that all the other Americans haven't found yet, join all the German language off-road forums, the German language groups within Facebook. There's Spanish forums I was on, lots of different countries off-roading forums. And there's not quite as much of a fervor. I mean, they're also getting expensive on there, but there's not quite that instant snap sale that you see when the Americans know they can import it. You know, as soon as there's like a clean troopy in Australia and an American sees that it's a legal year to import, bam, it's sold.
Yeah.
So I think if you can get on these forums that are a different language and use Google Translate, you can find deals before. So that for us was how we thought we were going to find the truck. And in the end, it was actually the guy that builds the interiors for Maltex who goes, you've reached out to me a few times. I've met you at a few of the expos. I think there's one for sale in Texas. I was like, if you could let him know that we're really interested, we probably can't afford it, but at least to call us, please have him call us. And so that guy reached out to us, and that pretty much that day we were driving for Texas. We just stopped what we were doing and we started heading for Texas to look at it. And as soon as we looked at it, I mean, I was already in love with it, but when Kelsey said she was in love with it, it was on. So
yeah, it was meant to be. How are you guys enjoying living in the Pop Top full time with both your rigs, weather, safety? It's I don't
not even
think,
a comparison.
Yeah, no comparison really. Dusty has so much more space inside, so it feels like a completely different vehicle. And then even in the Pop Top, it's just so much more space up there as well. The fact that the bed pushes out of the way in Dusty, so you have all that like standing space constantly available, whereas in Goose, it was really a lot of effort, and so we never really did it to have standing room very often.
No, not that often, because you had to move wood slats.
And
the
then
newer
everything
Camp
up there,
Techs,
you
I
had
think,
to find somewhere to put it. And,
the newer Camp Techs, I think the bed is on a gas strut, like a Maltec or like a Alu Cab Pop Top. But on ours, it was just wood slats, so you'd have to stack them all, and then you'd have to do something with that mattress. So you'd like fold it on itself, and so it's really hard to make standing room in Goose. And then if it got windy, that particular early model and that hinge, I mean, you just get worried and you didn't want to snap it in the middle of nowhere. So we'd lower it down. In this truck, it's just we trust the hinge a whole lot more. And it's just
a better thought out design, I think, overall.
Yeah, it's a lot more evolved. It's just, remember we had a prototype Camp Tech on Goose. And so it's probably pretty different from what you'd see from brand new one.
Yeah.
And then the space is just amazing. And so we can, like in Big Bend, one day the top was popped and we were camping up top and sleeping on the main bed. And the very next night it was 37 degrees and we had the top closed. We were making soups on the stove and we were just laying there watching TV on a tablet going, man, isn't this great? We can still be here. We're not freezing to death outside. Yeah. We're not worried about the top. We're not feeling the breeze. In Goose too, the bed's small enough because the 80 series, comes up on the sides. So when we were laying there, my arm was always touching this window net and her arm was always touching that side window net. And so
each other. So you're like,
yeah, you were pretty wedged in there. And so if there was ice or rain, part of your body was in it. If there were bugs, you'd end up with a bunch of bug bites on your arm. So this truck is more convenient in just more ways than I even can articulate probably.
Yeah. Let's see.
Google Fi. Yeah, we're going to continue using Google Fi. So for us, whenever we were traveling in Central and South America, it was so nice to just have your phone work. Yes, local SIMs are cheaper, and we would use those in a country we were going to be in long enough to go and buy one. But if we were going through, let's say we only had, a week in Costa Rica, and then we were heading on to Panama to ship. And so in Costa Rica, we're just our phones work. I'm not worried about it. We're not hardly using them. Let's just leave it and go. Or in that no man's land where you've left, let's say, I'm trying to think of one was 15 miles.
Yeah.
May have been in the Amazon near Peru and Ecuador or something.
Yeah.
It was 15 miles from exiting a country before you actually entered the next country. So that's a pretty big gap of nothingness. And you're, of course, not able to buy the next country's SIM card. And so the people we were with, we were helping them out with the maps. And then when we got into the country, we were helping them find the cell phone store because we had service. And so I really like having the Google Fi or T-Mobile or whatever other brand you can find. But if you have service instantly, then you can always get a local SIM card and throw it into your phone. So I think we're going to go with Google Fi still, and then we'll see.
Yeah.
The worst place we've ever had Google Fi was Alaska.
Yeah.
There was almost no service in the whole state. It was Anchorage, Fairbanks, and there was some other random spot where we got service, Homer, something like that.
Something, yeah.
And that was about it.
APRS?
So APRS in the US, yeah, we were running it, and then you might see it hasn't pinged in a while, and we just should shut it off. But out of the country, I've never gotten APRS to work. APRS, if you're wondering what the heck we're talking about, it's ham radio nerd stuff. And so ham radios can ping to a tower. That tower then triangulates your position via other towers, and it basically can track you like our InReach GPS does. But you need all those towers working, and the US is filled with them. And as soon as we went to Mexico, it didn't work. And then I asked on the ham radio forums, the older guys, hey, how do you get this to work? Well, none of those ham radio guys really travel internationally with a ham radio. So none of them really knew. Yes, there's different radio frequencies. I did all that, and I tuned the radio in Central or is it South America when it changes to a new frequency.
Yeah.
Never worked, and I have no idea why. So I kind of gave up on it. And so our ham radio now, I carry a handheld ham, and then we have the base unit in the truck or the mobile unit in the truck. And we will hand the handheld one to another truck if we're traveling with somebody who doesn't have a radio. And then it's a little better than just the little GMRS walkie-talkies. Or if one of us is spotting and it's like a rainstorm or something like that, you can hear a little bit better through that handheld back to the truck. But that's kind of all we end up using it for now. Or if we're on a group
we
trip
use that a
in
lot
the
for
US.
that.
Yeah.
But
I think the other question was safety in our trucks. I mean, I think for us, remoteness has always been our key to safety when we were worried about it. And then I think over time, we've just worried less and less about it as we realize it's not that big of an issue. At least we know it can be, right? We know that anything can happen anywhere, but the more we've traveled, the more we just realize that we're pretty safe and we're not worried about it. But I do think for us, remoteness has always been the key to feeling safer if we are worried about it. The new truck, definitely, I guess we do feel more safe than the old one, but both we could climb into the front seat. So in that practical sense, I don't think one's a huge difference.
no.
I do like that in Dusty, you can sit there and you've got, 5 little windows all on all sides that you can black out.
Yeah.
And literally you can sleep in and the sun doesn't come in, or you can crack them just a sliver and see out of every direction outside
And I
of the
think
truck.
you always, like with Goose, you felt like you were kind of closed in when
That's
you were
true.
up top. Not that you couldn't get out, but you were kind of locked in, you felt like. And so being able to just get down at any time is, I don't know, just peace of mind. It's not that big of a difference really, but yeah.
Yeah. Somebody asked on Peru mountain routes. Yeah, for sure. There was a couple passes we went over that I'm sure locals have gone over, but I've never heard of anyone else. And I put it on iOverlander just saying, be careful. It's kind of sketchy. It's a muddy shelf road that, no one seems to use, and there's grass growing on it, but it was gorgeous. One of the prettiest passes
Full of
we ever went over.
chinchillas.
Yeah. So stuff like that, I think, we don't mind sharing routes in foreign countries because if it's that remote and that tough, it's not really going to get overloaded, I don't think, in Peru with people. So shoot us a message or something like that, and I'll try to come up with roughly where the location was and just say, hey, search around in these mountains. There's really cool stuff.
Will you race more Baja, Tim?
Yeah, definitely. Always. I mean, so race Baja, 23 years ago, something like that, and then have been doing it ever since. And so for us, that's definitely a part of, definitely a part of our life. I think it's just so expensive. And so the Nora race was a really cool one, and we're just getting to editing that in the videos. So we raced the Nora 500 and won in that same buddy from Tucson's car that he built from scratch from just tubing on the wall. And it's a 1600 car, if you know what that is. It looks like a souped up Baja bug though. And so we won the class on that. And then we went back and raced the 1000 in a class 11, which is a stock Volkswagen bug.
Any licensing issues with ham over the pond? Not sure. I have to research that before we actually use it, but I haven't looked into it in depth yet. So
I would say yes,
question.
It's probably not legal.
Yeah.
So, we wouldn't be using it on those channels, or we'll find out what we can, or we'll just end up with a couple of handhelds and cheapos, and use whatever. Same with like in Australia, our ham wouldn't work, I don't think, on their channel. So if we end up in Australia and everyone uses those radios there, we're going to have to buy one and install it because it's so commonly used.
Yeah. Have you looked at Starlink for internet? We have.
Yes. Starlink is it's not that bulky, but you need to stay in one place for a while. Traveling Tux, I think. I'm saying their name wrong. Somebody correct me, but it's like they're in an Iveco and it's Tux something. But they actually bought a Starlink, and they've been re-registering every location they're at, I think, and we've been using it for Wi-Fi. I just think it takes a while. You set it up and then you register that address, and now you've got pretty good Wi-Fi there. It's not super cheap. I mean, for what it is, it's extraordinarily cheap.
Yeah.
But for our budget, we would rather burn through our Google Fi data and then also local SIM cards, I think, for now. But for Starlink, for sure,
that technology
is going to be the future,
starting,
I think.
Yeah.
How many different languages do we speak? We speak English.
Very
we
bad
speak Spanglish, a little bit Spanish. Not a lot. We've always just kind of figured out where we go. We try and learn, like, I'm sorry. Lo siento, I said like 1,000 times in Central and South America, just because you start out saying, I'm sorry, and here's what I'm trying to figure out. Do you have this part for my truck? Or I'm sorry, my Spanish is so bad. I'm sorry, my Russian is so bad. I'm sorry, my German is so bad.
Google Translate is amazing.
Anyone under the age of like 35, if you get your phone out, they'll grab it from you and start talking into it or start typing, because they know they use Google Translate all the time. If they're older, they still seem to kind of know. If you just say, like, tell me, in their language to your phone, they'll start speaking to your phone.
What's your go-to recovery gear item aside from a winch?
I would say just our shovel. I know that's not a sexy answer, but I mean, it's just the best thing in the world. I mean, there's a washout on a trail. You can get the max tracks out and do a bridge and use it for that. But a lot of the times we'll just get out and start shoveling stuff. So I know that's not the coolest thing, but that's my number one piece of recovery gear. The winch, because we're alone and because we both have trained other people on winches and stuff, we can get out that gear really quick and do a winch recovery faster than any other kind. So I actually get the winch going before even max tracks, which seems crazy.
Own recovery, but if
for
we're recovering another person, the most used is probably just a strap.
Yeah, just a flat strap with a tiny bit of kinetic, not a full kinetic strap like you see Matt's off-road recovery or someone using that's a bungee rope. We use those at the military training for like sand dunes and stuff like that, but they're kind of bulky. And if the person doing the pulling isn't sort of experienced, they can really mess things up. And so we use a flat strap that's just got like a 5 or 10% kinetic to it. So it's just enough not to snap your neck, and you're not doing a hard pull. You just pull it taut and then get going. And if that's not enough, then we usually do something else, like English is a stretch, Tim. Yeah, fair enough. But so you do a flat strap and do static pulls. Almost everyone we've pulled out in foreign countries, they're not driving a Unimog. They're not driving even a Land Cruiser. They're driving a Corolla or a Nissan Sentra or a two-wheel drive Hilux, or, almost every vehicle we've recovered is actually kind of a small thing that's not that stuck. We did recover like an F450 from it was an early one though. So I think it was an 80s era, but it was a Ford that had a big stake bed on the back filled with tires in it. If you watch the early Baja videos, and that thing was twice as heavy.
And it wasn't running.
It's twice as heavy as Goose, but it wasn't that stuck. So most people in these countries are just barely not getting through an area they normally get through. And so this truck had just broken down and we were in the sand. So we aired Goose down, went in a low range second gear, and just pulled static for a mile, got them to hard ground, and then they worked on the truck and we're fine. So
they were able to bump start it. It just
you're right. That's what it was.
The starter
Once we got them
going. What kind of compressor do you use to inflate the tires?
On Goose, we had the fancy ARB twin. And when I left on the trip, it's a great compressor. I really like it, but it's like $500-$600 if you don't get it sponsored. And we didn't. We paid, I think there was a discount or something we got on Goose, but I was just looking for a discount at like Overland Expo. It wasn't a YouTube sponsorship. Great compressor. But as soon as you leave on a trip like this, the speed of your compressor is the least important thing, really, unless you're trying to like seat tires, in which case you probably need a tank to do it anyways. And so for us, the idea that the compressor is quick is just a non-issue. And so I just want it to be a quality one that's reliable. And then I always carry a little backup, one of those sort of chintzy backups that's more of a plug into your 12 volt, and they're tiny. So I usually have that. That's like an absolute worst case. Or if we're mountain biking, a bike pump. I've pumped up tires with a bike pump, and it's really tiring. But on the new truck, we have an Extreme Air. So I can't remember the model, but it's not even a twin piston. So it's not super fast. It's just a quality one that's reliable, and that's about it.
Yeah. Let's see. I saw another one. Do you have any pro tips on synthetic line for a winch setup? Just got our first synthetic line.
I like to put it on under quite a bit of load. So to me, when I've seen synthetic line get cooked and snap, or cooked and not quite snap, but it's gotten sort of plasticized, so no longer is it soft feeling like Dyneema. It starts feeling like that cheap rope you can get at Ace Hardware that's literally plastic. It's because they put their winch under load, and it was at the outer rungs, and under load it pulled from the outer winds back down to the drum, and in that force it created a lot of heat, kind of like when a line slips through your hand and it cooks part of your palm and gives you a blister. And so that heat creation can kill them. And so to me, I think putting it on in nice spirals under load is super important for synthetic. And then trying to clean it occasionally. You saw us on the trip a few times after some Amazon type stuff, or one was up in the Petén in Guatemala.
Yeah.
We soaked the line and tried to get all the sand and the gunk out of it, because that'll saw away at it. And you'll see some guys' old synthetic lines looks like it's furry. It looks like cotton.
Yeah.
So
The compressor is not portable. No.
yeah. Let's see. Tux Truck. Thank you. Yeah, they're the ones who are using Starlink.
And apparently there's a Starlink Premium, according to Lhasa, that it's
Only
$500 a month. So for just $500 a month,
Yeah.
you could have internet anywhere, which is cool, but
Yeah.
a bit too much for us right now.
Yeah. And to be honest, too, when it comes down to it, as far as what countries you're going to go to, I loved Russia in college. It was amazing. But you're right. Right now is not a great time. China, maybe not a great time at the moment. But I was definitely, from this trip, also helped reinforce it, but always separating the people of a country from the government of a country.
Yeah.
You know, people, when we traveled through Central and South America, asked a lot, like, oh man, being Americans, you know, have you guys been given a hard time? We had Europeans assuming, oh, everyone hates you guys. And you're like, well, no, the people from the country liked us and had great stories about visiting the US or growing up here or something. And so it's just important to separate the two. So we'd love to go to Russia.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to go to Kazakhstan, but you're right. Probably not
Might
right
not
now.
be the best time right now. What is Dusty's total weight?
Dusty, I published the first photo of us standing next to Dusty. At the end of that trip home, we loaded all of Goose's gear into him and all of our clothing and stuff. We had his 65-gallon tanks full, his 20-gallon water tank full, and he was 6,300 pounds, like 6,292. But I think in actuality, I've added more. I've got like 5 oil filters, some fuel filters, axle rebuild kit, like a lot of junk in him now that's spares. I'm sure he's 6,500. And when we weighed him up in Medford, because they have scales on the side of the highway outside of town, he was closer to 6,500. So he's lighter than Goose was, but with like a lot more fuel capacity, some more water capacity, and more space, that still boggles my mind.
Are 35-inch tires worth it? We were literally just talking about this yesterday.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're not worth it, but it's sort of like when people buy mud terrains over all terrains, a lot of it, I think we can all admit, is looks. They look really, unless you're always in the mud. I mean, by all means, they're getting mud terrains, but a lot of it comes down to looks. And so I think with 35s, we loved the ground clearance we had. We loved that with a little airing down, he was so smooth, because you get all that suspension from the big balloon tire, all that air volume bouncing around, and a bunch of sidewall and everything. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing, but the idea that most of the trip we're just driving, we're going over shelf roads. Think of like Colorado off-roading in the San Juans, you know, Telluride, Black Bear Pass, all that. These aren't technically hard trails, and giant tires, if anything, make it more difficult sometimes. And in a little city, trying to navigate through a city, your power steering pump and all that's trying to turn these big tires, when you're really worried about fuel mileage because it's $7 a gallon or more, like in Patagonia, it was like in southern Chile. I don't think it's worth it. No, but I love 35s. I love the way the truck operates and the ground clearance. And so don't be surprised if one day you see us go back to 35s. But I'm actually loving the 255 85 16s, which is a tall 33, if you don't know what those are. Yeah.
Okay. Dusty is not a 95. He is a 1990, so he doesn't have the power mode.
Yeah, Burke. Goose was a 95.
Yeah.
And so on Goose, we wouldn't use the power mode unless we needed it. I think the power mode, the ECT button, is just electronically controlled transmission. So it shifts later. It lets the revs get higher. And if you turn it off, you'll get a little bit better mileage. So we would use it and play with a little bit on Goose. But in this truck with a manual transmission, there is no power button, and he's a 1990. So,
can you explain airing down and the benefits of it, or is it really bad for your tires? No. So basically, quick explanation is once you air down, your tire gets actually longer. It looks like it gets wider, but it gets longer. So think of it as like a tractor tread or something like that, right?
I don't know.
No. And so you get more grip. It also is more comfortable. You can air down just a little bit, and it's not bad for your tires. I wouldn't recommend driving on the highway at 85 miles an hour for long periods of time, but airing down really low is where you can get into more trouble.
You can pop the tire off the bead and stuff, but no, don't be afraid of airing down. Experiment with it when you're off-road and when you're going slowly. And just remember, everything is more mushy. So you turn the steering wheel, you've got a bunch of sidewall that kind of mushes and gushes, right? And so if you turn sharply on highway and you're aired down, there's a much greater likelihood you're going to lose control of the vehicle and flip or any sort of bad situation. As you're going down the highway, if you think of your tire as a circle and then it's flattened on the bottom, right, because you've aired it down, that flat spot is constantly changing, right, as the tire rotates. So think of a tire spinning at 65 miles an hour, all those rotations. And constantly one piece of this, your tire looks like it's rubber, but the interior is like steel mesh. Mm-hmm. It's flattening and then going back to round, flat, round, again and again and again. That generates an immense amount of heat, and it could eventually break that steel belting to pieces, and you could blow a tire out. So just keep it in mind for the highway. But I would say that once we left the United States and hit Mexico, we were aired down from Mexico basically to the tip of Argentina or even back up. We never went back to 45, 50 PSI to get good mileage. We were off-road every day at some point, even if we were taking some bumpy sort of highways. So we were aired down to 30 or 28 just to start the trip. And we never got faster than 62 miles an hour was our high. And that was a toll road in Panama. Mm-hmm. And then in Argentina, there were some good highways where you could do 60 or 70. But for the most part, our whole trip's average speed per day was 45 or 50 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. So you can stay aired down quite a bit.
And the weakest point of the tire is always going to be that sidewall, which is if you air down too much, then the sidewall is kind of hanging over. But that's the biggest concern is going to be the sidewall, watching out for that.
Yeah. But I wouldn't be afraid of airing down a little bit. And the tire companies too, there was an executive for one of the big tire companies at Overland Expo, and I was telling him how far we've aired down, how we've gone down to 3 PSI in the sand dunes just to lightly get the truck out of a stuck situation. And then we bumped it back to 10 PSI. And he was horrified and was sure that it was going to ruin the tires. But these are tires we've used for years and years. So keep in mind, there's a lot of fear, I think, around airing down, and just experiment with it yourself, because the weight of your vehicle makes a big difference. So don't ask someone else the number to air down to, because an earth roamer with the big tire package airs down from 120 something, 130 to 85. So it's kind of,
and it'll depend on what terrain. Sometimes you have to air down more or less. So it's just something you got to play with and figure out for your own vehicle. On your South America trip, do you think a square drop trailer would be reasonable? Family of 3.
Yeah. We saw tons of people with trailers. So I think that you'll figure out what to do or what not to do based on your setup and how comfortable you are with it. And, with a family, you'll have more people to spot you in a tiny town when you're going along and it's a European sized road. And you know what I mean? There'll even be locals that'll help you pick up the back of it and move it over if you had to. So I wouldn't worry about it. You'll find a way. Do you have a carnet de passage, or are you planning to get it in Europe? We're not going to do a carnet right now because for Europe and Eastern Europe, we should be good. If we head into Africa, we might. We're trying to decide. If we ship to Africa, we absolutely had to have it even to arrive. They won't let you get off in South Africa or Namibia and those countries without one. So we were going to have to get one. If we're heading to Europe right now, and if we do Europe and Eastern Europe, we won't get one yet. And then depending on what countries are on the list, we'll get one or not.
It's all learning for us too. So we'll share what we learned with you guys, but, probably will be about 10 minutes more. We don't want to go too long on this, but we'll answer a few more questions.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you in Houston too. Patches. We may be getting patches soon. So we do a made to ship. So for our t-shirts, it's printed when you order it and then shipped out because we can't carry stuff in the truck with us. And I think that they're going to have patches soon. I just saw that.
Yeah.
So if they do get those, then we will definitely have patches. We're still trying to figure out, like, we have stickers that we send out ourselves. So we're trying to figure out how to handle that.
Yeah.
So we took those off the website, just FYI, for a little bit until we figure out what we're doing.
Yeah, there's no like big operation with us. And so if Printful can handle it, that's why we're still doing the shirts and the sweatshirts and the hats, and we might do patches. But for stickers, we've always done them ourselves. And so unless we're sure we can send them from Europe, we don't want you to put in an order and then wait months for stickers. So we might do them once we have a reliable third party that can send stickers for us, or if we find a way that we can, send them from Europe to the US. And then we were going to add something to the store. You can tell us what you think about this. Shoot us a message if you think it's a horrible or a great idea, or comment. But we're thinking about adding to the store like a postcard. And so you can just check out. It's kind of like buying us a taco or a beer on that button. But if you just said, look, I kind of would love a postcard from somewhere in the world, you can just hit, buy a postcard. You don't know where it's going to come from. We don't know where it's going to come from. But when we see the order come through in our email, we would just find the next postcard we can find and send it off to you with a note. And I don't know. I just thought that was kind of a rad thing.
Did we sneak the dog? Oh, man. I miss Jesse, Barbara, Carl. No, we didn't.
Maltec, yeah, they make all their own stuff. So there's this really talented guy, Phil, over there. And he does all the interiors. I think he did a lot of like boat interiors. And I think everything's water jet cut. I'm really excited to see how they make those interiors, because that's if we built our own box on an 80, which we considered, that's one of the areas that would have looked way different. Like
very bad.
It would have been like 80-20 or whatever. I would have TIG welded together pieces of aluminum, but it would have been sort of home built looking. And those interiors are amazing and all custom made. So each one is sort of set up differently. And the drawers, even though they look like aluminum, they're aluminum skinned over a composite, because aluminum would be too heavy, which is just the weight savings is crazy.
Seems like everyone likes the postcards.
Cool.
I think we'll do the postcards. We'll figure that out and add that to the website, because I think it would just be a
cool.
fun thing to do.
And it would just be fun for us to be like, how neat is it going to be? Like, we're here right now. Let's grab 5 of these or whatever and send them off in the mail. And I think it's just a fun way to get something tangible. So,
yeah.
Cool. Well, do you guys have any other questions? You can always feel free to send us messages. We're stoked that so many people are following along. And
yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, we can't wait to see our truck again. It's so funny because it's our home. It's like, you worry about it, but we're trying to also just not worry about it and enjoy our time. And hopefully you guys will enjoy seeing some adventures. I think Egypt's going to be killer.
I'm so excited for Egypt.
We might be able to hook up with an overlander who I met. He was a volunteer that came over to Overland Expo East like 6 years ago. And I reached out to him, and he's a Land Cruiser guy in Egypt. So I don't know. We might be able to do some fun adventures over there and stuff.
So yeah, thank you guys. We've almost done an hour.
Yeah, we're dead. We're so tired. But thank you so much. We can't thank you all enough for following along, and really appreciate it and the support and everything.
Yeah, love you guys, and sorry for the technical difficulties. Hopefully you found us.
Yeah, we'll get better at it.
Yeah.
All right. See you later.
Bye.